name, Inherent Resolve. To go further in depth on this issue, J.D. Gordon, a former Defense Department spokesman and a former chief foreign policy and national security advisor to presidential candidate Herman Cain, also joining us in the Newsmax newsroom is former CIA analyst Lisa Ruth. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thanks, John.
Good to be here.
All right, so the campaign now has a name, guys. And Lisa, we'll start with you. What does this signal to you about how long this might last?
Oh, we're in it for the long haul is exactly right. And I think that everything we're hearing from the administration is this is going to be a long fight, this is going to take time, and the naming of it certainly just reinforces that, but it goes back to what the administration has been saying. There is no easy answer here. We all know this, and there's no quick solution. It's going to be a while.
Well, JD, some folks were asking why it took so long for this administration to name the operation. Was that much ado about nothing, or was this a big deal?
I don't know, but I would tell you that John Kirby and I have been friends for about 15 years, former Navy PAO colleagues, public affairs colleagues, and so I think he's right. I think that we have to have military pressure and we have to have strikes, and it's going to take a long time, though. There's no easy answer. I think the root cause is the ideology. I wish the administration would talk more about that. President Obama says that ISIS is not Islamic. Okay, well, they certainly think they are. So it would be more helpful if President Obama is putting more pressure on Saudi's King Abdullah to come out often and start cutting off funding for these type of groups. Stop this ideology, this really militant form of Wahhabism that's coming from Saudi Arabia. The Saudis spent $100 billion exporting this militant type of Islam since the 1970s. Even if we destroy ISIS, we're just going to get attacked by the next group. Yesterday it was Al-Qaeda, the day before the Taliban. Now it's ISIL, it's the Khorasan group. So these things are just details, really. The military solution is not sufficient. We got to stop the ideology, got to tear out the roots, because we're going to keep getting struck and we'll be at risk for more 9/11s, possibly for generations.
Well, there is some debate, actually, too, at least about whether ISIS is winning or losing. We heard Senator McCain earlier this week say ISIS is winning, but I want to point to a article in Politico magazine that Michael Knights wrote just yesterday, and I read it, talking about he believes that the Islamic State is losing, and any attacks directly on Baghdad or a push towards Baghdad might symbol a desperation on behalf of ISIS. What's your take on that?
I read that as well, and Michael Knights is certainly brilliant and always has excellent points. I think you have to look at it, though, in the context of winning and losing for ISIS. And maybe it is a sign of desperation, but they are not losing. I don't know if they're winning, but the fact that they are gaining and holding territory, even if they don't take Kobani, they have strong supporters, they are still able to get recruits, they still have money. I think it's difficult to say they're losing. Even if they don't take another single step forward from here, they have created a situation where there is some level of winning, certainly more so than any other terrorist group. And while I do agree that terrorism, unless we can eradicate this radical ideology, we also do need to look at ISIS as a group that is different, at least so far. Unfortunately, I think going forward, terrorists are going to take best practices from ISIS and mimic it. But this group is a threat, and I think that it's hard to say that they're losing at this point.
And JD, I don't know if you read that article, but if you do, it talks a lot about some of these coalitions of the tribal regions of Iraq, and it reads almost as if we're seeing a repeat of what took place in 2004 and 2005 and 2006. To go to your point, if it's not ISIS, it's going to be somebody else. Is there any way to stop this cycle other than what you mentioned? Can the Iraqi government step up here?
The Iraqi government really can't. They're not in a position to do it. Look, they just abandoned 4 divisions worth of heavy weapons to ISIS to take, tanks and missiles, rockets, and so I think the Iraqis can't do it. I think what has to happen is King Abdullah has to fear for his regime in Saudi Arabia. Ayatollah Khamenei has to fear for his regime in Iran. Until those guys fear for their regime, they're not going to stop exporting this radical Islam, this militant type of Islam. And looking back to 1979, that's when this current round really started. The Iranians had the revolution in Tehran, and the revolutionary government, that's what it's called in Iran. Their goal is to export this type of revolutionary Islam. It's a Shia brand.
Well, the pressure certainly is on the Saudi Arabian government as the relationship between Iran and Iraq seems to get closer. We'll talk more about this, guys, as well. And I also want to talk about what impact on national security in Africa Ebola could have. So stick around. We'll be back with more on America's Forum.